Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Patricia Dawn. This is my personal YouTube channel, and it's my desire to share my healing journey from the disease of addiction and to bring forward the medicine wheel as a tool that's really helped me solidify my recovery. So I'm recovering from the disease of addiction. I consider myself a recovering addict, and that includes alcohol as well. I consider it a drug. And I'm having a bit of a challenge today. It's pouring rain outside, and I don't mind standing in the rain. I actually quite like it, but I keep getting splashed by the cars going by, so I figured I'd jump in my car, and that's why. I really, really appreciate you being here and sharing your energy and your time with me. Your life force is a gift, and I'm aware of that, and so I needed to acknowledge it today, that as we weave this moment together, I'm grateful that you've chosen to do that, and I thank you for the gift of your presence today. I love the rain. I like storms. I like the seasons. And I like how they kind of represent, the seasons of life and the seasons of nature and the seasons of healing. So today in this video, I'd like to share a story of an experience I had recently. It was so profound. And it's around being intimate, or allowing the energy of intimacy to join in dialogue, in conversation, in sharing. And so when I came into early recovery, I really struggled. I had a really hard time, and I was very angry, and my perception of life and the world was quite distorted. And I lived in a lot of fear, very insecure. And I had gotten a motorcycle, a little Yamaha 450 Special, and I wanted to learn how to ride. But more than anything, my ego wanted to be this motorcycle mama, I guess. I don't know. For today, it doesn't matter. And a friend of mine who was helping me didn't realize I didn't have a license because I was dishonest in my addiction, and had taken me out to this place to meet this fella that works on motorcycles. And so we get out there, and this is like, a biker character where everything's spoken in 4 words or less and super direct. Like, if your feelings are hurt, that's for you to deal with, kind of thing. And so we pull up, and he comes walking out. He says hello to his friend that I'm with, and he looks at me and he goes, "What kind of goddamn helmet is that? Looks like a top of a pill bottle." And I'm like, "Whoa, okay." And he's like, "So riding a motorcycle isn't a fashion statement, you know that, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I do." And then he takes a look at my bike, and he says, "This needs a lot of work." And then he asks me, he goes, "Do you have a license?" And I look at him and know full well I'm not going to get away with shit with this guy. So I admit I don't have a license. And he's like, "You need to go get a license before you come into my shop." And so I left. Wow, feeling super rejected, but really respectful of his honesty, and becoming more aware of the truth of what my intention was. And I really did want to learn to ride a motorcycle, and I wanted to do it well. I have a boy, right, at the time. So fast forward ahead, I go through treatment, a day treatment program, and we're told to find resources to support our recovery, because it's not a journey you can take alone. And I'm struggling. I'm having a hard time with the literature and the structure of it. The 12-step program that I joined, I had a home group. I was looking for a sponsor. I was doing the things, and I was hurting. I was still really suffering. Only now I'm not using drugs and alcohol to anesthetize it, to numb it out. And so everything's raw, and the way I speak is raw, and I'm rough, and I've got these sharp edges, and I can't, have a conversation with respect. I take everything personally, from hello to goodbye. And I come walking into our clubhouse where we gather for fellowship and to be amongst each other, to create community, because this isn't a journey I can do by myself at all. And I'm mouthing off about how I'm going to rewrite the literature, like, oh my God, can you talk about ego? And this woman's laughing. I'm not too happy about it. And she's like, "So before you go to all that trouble, because it's going to take you quite a while to change all the literature in this program, maybe you'd like to get the message." And she got my attention, and she was really funny, very approachable. We sat down, we had a coffee, and And she listened to me for a little while because, I'm not making a whole lot of sense, even though I think I'm all this in a bag of chips. And then she said to me, have you ever been to a rally? And I said, I didn't know what it was. And she's like, it's where we gather and we celebrate. We celebrate our recovery. We celebrate each other and we create unity and there's joy. And I hadn't never, ever known joy other than the moment I'd given birth to my son. And so I became curious, and she took me and paid for my ticket. Very generous. And so we're at this rally, this dance, and I'm looking around, and it feels like everyone's 110, and the music's from the 1940s, and I am so hella awkward, insecure, and I look like a tourist. Like, I can't stop looking around. And I didn't want to be there. And it looked awful to me. And of course, my mind is embellishing. It's taking a small detail, like a one song that's playing, and I decide, oh my God, it's bad, they're this. And it's that distorted perception of reality, which is a part of my disease for me. And all of a sudden, I sense this person come kind of quickly to the table, and they bend down my chair, and I look down, and it's this biker dude, 4 words or less. And I'm like, oh my God, what are you doing here? And he's laughing, and he says, I'm in recovery. And I'm like, you? Really? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, and I'm really glad to see you here, because now you can actually get honest and probably get a license and ride a motorcycle safely. And I was so grateful. Like, he, to me, represented a community that I had really identified with. Like, and so I ran into him at the meeting. It was a daily meeting. The group that I was a part of, we met on a daily basis, or you could meet on a daily basis. And he showed up there, and he began to really become a big part of my recovery. And I get pretty emotional about it because I'm a few years now around the mountain, and I've had another son, and I've healed a lot of the woundedness. So I'm not as edgy and rough and insecure, but I'm still walking the walk. And there's days that I still get distorted perceptions, or the insecurities take over and really get a story going that I'm wrapped myself up in. But I have the gift of a relationship to a power greater than myself, and I have community, and I can reach out and call, and I can go to a sister friend a sister addict that is in her healing journey, and she can reflect back to me. Like, there's so much I can do that has made my life so much more rich. And so it's been a few years, and often I'll share in a meeting what I learned from him in the beginning of my journey in recovery. And he phoned me one time, and he said, "How you doing?" And I'm bored. It sucks. I'm trying to do this step work. And he laughs, and he goes, "Good." And I'm like, "Good? Like, what's good about it?" And he goes, "You're doing the work. You're not lying to yourself anymore. You've committed to doing this step work, which at the end promises a spiritual experience. And you're uncomfortable, and you're complaining, which means you're feeling your feelings, you're saying them out loud, and you're doing the work." And he goes, "Good on you." And he hangs up the phone. And I'm like, okay, great. It still sucks. I'm bored. And right. So time goes on. I get a little farther into the program. And he comes and takes me for lunch one day. It was awesome. And he's sharing his journey with me, and he's got an intense story. And the friendship begins to weave into something very valuable to me. And I felt for the first time in my life I wasn't alone. And that I could kind of trust him, maybe, because that was really tough. But he was respectful. And again, he phones me one morning, and he's like, "What's your morning practice?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Part my eyebrows, put on a yoga suit, talk to myself in the mirror." Like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, obviously you're not that far into the literature yet, because we seek to right-size ourselves and build on our spiritual wellness every morning, as soon as you start." And I'm like, and you're telling me what? And he's like, "So I'm telling you, you need to learn how to pray." And I'm like, oh yeah, here we go. Because my parents had this shaming religion they were a part of that talked about prayer. And he says, "You need to learn to get on your knees. Oh, yeah, not happening. Super ego over here, not doing it. And he's like, yeah, well, eventually you'll get tired of the suffering. And he goes, but until then, what I would suggest is you stick your shoes under the bed so that when you bend down in the morning to get them, you can just hit your knees real quick and lift up a prayer to your higher power, whatever that is for you. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And he goes, do you want to heal or do you want to complain? And I'm like, no, healing, over here, want to heal. And he goes, when you get on your knees and you bow your head, the ego leaves. It won't participate in a humble state. And in that posture, and in the essence of bowing, you're bowing to something greater than yourself. And he said, and then whatever that higher power is for you can reach you because you become in a humble state and your ego has left. And was that ever true? Like I could feel it within the first week and everything shifted for me. I began my day. I began my day in a good way and now what I call a ceremony. And I aligned myself with my spiritual higher power and I seek the direction from my higher power. And I honor myself in my recovery. And I seek to be that which I'm being called to be, which is somebody who's taking responsibility for their life on a daily basis. And there's so much more to it. So years have gone by, and I hadn't seen him in a long time. And I was at a meeting one morning on the weekend and had shared about him in this get on your knees, put your shoes under your bed story. I know a young woman approached me and she's early in recovery and she's seeking guidance, and we went outside and talked and we decided to go for coffee, and we go to this wonderful little place and just as we're finishing, I look up and I see this old guy coming through the cafe and he's kind of shuffling, and I work with old folks, so I tend to keep an eye on them because if they fall it can be detrimental, and so I had an eye on him, and my friend left. And I got up and I started walking towards him because I recognized the walk, the swagger, even though it was in a shuffle form. And it was him. And he had sunglasses on. And he's 80 years old now. And he's been walking the road for over 33 years. And I placed myself in front of him, waiting for him to be able to focus in and see. And he goes, is that you? And I said, yeah, that's me. And he goes, wow. This is a good day. And I said, how are you doing? He said, they're burning me from the inside. I said, are you in radiation? And he said, yeah, I'm in the final stages of cancer. And I hurt because he has been such an integral part in my recovery, and we can do that for one another. And he said, they burnt my goddamn nuts off. Like although they weren't working that great, I kind of liked them. And he goes in there, and they're burning the shit out of me. And something else, I believe it's his lungs or something. And of course it made me laugh because that's so him. And he goes, what are you doing right now? And I said, I'd like to sit with you if that's okay. And he's like, really? And I said, yeah. And he goes, oh, the day just gets better. And we sat down at the table and the cafe emptied. And I became really aware in my sensory perception of this moment. I say to you today, I choose to believe that the unseen world of the ancestral energy of love and light came in and surrounded us because it was so luminous and potent. And he told me, he doesn't have long to live. And I said to him, I really want to thank you for the part you played in my sobriety. I even shared about you this morning, because of how much you gave me. And I'm still walking with a lot of what you've taught me. Then he looked at me and he said, and I want to thank you for the part you played in my sobriety. And he asked me a few questions. And he said to me, I said to him, you played a big part in a lot of the lives that surrounded you in our recovery community. And he said, yeah, but a lot of those women wouldn't sleep with me. I laughed because that's the way he was. I said, yeah, that's true. And the love, I could feel it all around us and in between us. And it was tender and it was kind, and it had reverence of two people who have walked that walk and done that work and have lived. He's lived, and he has regrets. And I asked him, what's it like now, as you're coming towards the end? And he said, there's things I wish I could have done different, and there's things I celebrate that I did right. And so we came to the end of the meeting or the visit, and I said to him, I'd like to walk you out to your car. And he said, that would be great. This is a day that I've had no pain, because he lives with chronic pain, full body pain. And he said, and it's been one of the best days in a really long time, being able to sit with you. So we get outside to the car, and he looks at me and he said, I'm really going to miss you. And I said, yeah, I'm going to miss you too. And I gave him a hug, gave him a kiss on the cheek, and he looked at me for a moment, and he said, I love you. And I said, I love you back. And he said, okay, now get going, because this is starting to hurt. And I had the gift of being able to thank him and say goodbye to him and to enjoy what I believe is a spiritual moment. He's a very spiritual man. He really empowered my spirituality. And the memories I have with him that have woven around the two of us on this red road are a gift that I will be able to hold forever. And as I got past his car, I turned around and I said, I know I'm going to see you again. And I know you're going to be okay. And he said, yeah. And he goes, don't worry, I'll haunt you. And I wanted to bring this to this channel and to record this moment, because on the red road, that luminous light is in each and every one of us. And when he and I joined each other in that aligned reverence for our shared experience, that light grew. Like it was strong, and it was around us, and it held us, and it carved a moment or wove a moment that is the ultimate gift. And that's, to me, what life is when we say it becomes rich and full. And we could celebrate what we had between us because we know the value from walking the red road and having done this work and woven this relationship together. I have this memory of him. I phoned him one time, and I just finished a meeting, and I was complaining. He said, she said, and he roars and says, this is the message you bring me? You need to go to another meeting and try again. And he hangs up. And I'm like, whoa. So I went to another meeting, and I phoned him, and this time I had a message, and he goes, that's better. Now keep doing it. And I want to walk that way too. I want to touch lives that make a difference in their journey. I want to witness the unfolding of their claim to their wellness, and to see the soul bloom again in their eyes, and to witness them see their dreams come true, because I've already seen that, and I know that it exists and it's possible. It's possible for all of us. And so I lay this before you today, my friends and relatives, and I thank you for being with me in this moment and sharing this time with me, which is a gift in itself. And I wish you many blessings and much light. May you know your worth and your value. May you see yourself reflected in the eyes of those who surround you with love and cherishment. Thank you today. Thank you for all you are. And thank you for joining me. I wish you many blessings and much light. Hi, all my relations. Mutak Yasoin.